In the 1989 film The War of the Roses, starring Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner, a wealthy couple's seemingly perfect marriage disintegrates into a bitter and outrageous battle for their upscale home. Initially, the Roses live a life of affluence, complete with a beautiful house and high social status. However, as their relationship sours, their wealth and privileges only serve to fuel the ferocity of their disputes. What begins as subtle resentment escalates into psychological warfare and eventually spirals into a bitter battle over their shared home. Their wealth, rather than providing them comfort or solutions, becomes weaponized. The grand house they once viewed as a symbol of their success transforms into a battlefield, with expensive possessions turned into instruments of revenge. Despite their affluence, Oliver and Barbara find themselves trapped in a vindictive and destructive struggle, showing that material wealth cannot protect against the emotional devastation of a love turned hostile. The film's genius lies in showing how privilege can actually enable destructive behavior. The Roses have the resources to wage an increasingly elaborate war against each other rather than being forced by circumstances to compromise or separate. Their financial independence removes external pressures that might otherwise compel them to act rationally. The film serves as a stark reminder that no amount of money or privilege can shield one from the treacheries and pains of a relationship gone terribly wrong. This week revealed perhaps the most poignant reminder since the great disappearance earlier this year that William and Kate's marriage is at this point little more than an illusion. It started with William's solo trip to South Africa, where he was accompanied by trusted Rhoda reporter Rhiannon Mills, to whom he confessed that this has been the most difficult year of his life. Shortly thereafter, there was the very sensational publicizing of the Sun's altering of a report by the same reporter, Rhiannon Mills, who let slip that Kate's cancer diagnosis was nothing more than the detection of pre-cancer cells. This, of course, created quite a stir. Many defenders were quick to point out that Kate herself never actually used the term pre-cancer cells. But why would this reporter, who is a trusted member of the Rhoda, make such a specific claim?
Prince William has given an update on the Princess of Wales's health. Kate revealed in September she had completed chemotherapy after the discovery of precancerous cells in March. The Prince was speaking ahead of tonight's Earthshot Prize Award in Cape Town.
Well, folks, that got me thinking. Turns out that Rhiannon Mills actually accompanied William to South Africa. And well, if you're wondering who may have given her the green light to quietly include this very provocative modification of a previously reported story, well, you need look no further. Then came the annual Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall, where if one didn't know any better, you might have thought that these people didn't actually know each other. The chemistry was Arctic at best. Things didn't get much better the next day at the cenotaph, where Kate struggled to put on a brave face as William curiously left her name off the ceremonial wreath, signing the affixed note with his own signature, a departure from previous years where Kate's name would be included. Kate appeared at times to fight back tears as she struggled to put on her best poker face. This piece of public theater was capped off with Sophie putting a sympathetic hand on her back. But folks, for those of you who have been following this saga since the beginning of the year, you will remember when William curiously began using his own monogram, much to the consternation of observers like myself, who were under the impression that something nefarious had befallen the Princess of Wales. Now I'm convinced more than ever that it was all a very messy private separation in a very public marriage. A couple weeks ago, this article popped up, dragging back into focus the now infamous Mother's Day photo fiasco, claiming that Kate was just trying to bring some joy to the nation. Now, the controversy surrounding the photo has never quite been resolved. Now, I don't believe for 1 second that Kate had anything to do with it. This all happened in the midst of her disappearance. And if you recall, William initially took full credit for the photo, then promptly threw Kate under the bus when it was found to be heavily manipulated. And besides, folks, the logical question is, if Kate was around during that time, why was there a need to stitch together all these images? I mean, if she was actually there, all she had to do was pose for the camera. Except she wasn't there, and neither were the kids. A few weeks back, someone in the comments mentioned that in James Middleton's book, there is a curious mention of Kate paying him a visit with the kids during the time that she was missing in action. Now, look, folks, I think she left William and was more than likely staying with her family and refusing to go back. Now, I don't know what kind of tactics William had to resort to in order to compel her to return, but it is clearly not under amicable conditions. Folks, what you are witnessing beneath the surface is a raging power struggle between two people whose marriage has probably been over for a while now. In fact, Kate moved to Windsor, away from Kensington Palace, as far back as 2022, the year the Queen died, and 2 years after the departure of Harry. It was reported in the press that Charlotte cried in shock upon seeing her father's new beard. Well, that's strange. I mean, if they were together, why would it be a shock to see her father's transformation, which, by the way, is rather concerning? But of course, the press will find a way to whitewash these incidences as symbols of their undying love for each other or some such thing. Now look, folks, I don't know who they're trying to fool, but Kate is clearly disgusted with William, and William appears to be beyond exasperation with her at this point. I came across this article last week. Cancer-free Kate Middleton will be doing more next year, Prince William says. This was followed by reports in several publications that William is putting his foot down by insisting that Kate draft a schedule prioritizing herself or some such rot. Translation, next year, you better get back to work. You've got to read between the lines, folks. Earlier this year, all the reports claimed that Kate may not be seen in public again, some even claiming for as much as 12 years. And now she seems to be popping up at all these events, except this one. Kate missed a very glitzy white tie event this year. If you recall, last year's diplomatic corps reception gala, she was prominently featured behind a candelabra. And one year even featured the perplexing inclusion of rose Hanbury. This year, though, it seems she was left off the invitation list altogether, and this did not go without notice. Now, this Tiara event, as it is commonly referred to, is undoubtedly one of Kate's favorites, where she has dazzled in previous years. Folks, what we are witnessing is a behind-the-scenes battle royale between the couple, with William asserting his dominance and using it to punish Kate for having the temerity to leave him. Well, it seems her team went into panic mode. The next morning, we got this pathetic little nothing report about a hush-hush meeting for her early years project. Give me a break, folks. This is the same early years project that hasn't been updated since last year. I mean, whenever they need an excuse, it's either the recovery that never ends or her early years project that no one really knows what she's doing on that front anyway. These highly publicized meetings never really offer much in the way of details. Is the picture getting a little clearer, folks? Kate does not want to work anymore in an official capacity. Sure, she would love to attend the glamorous Tiara events, and William knows this. But what's equally obvious is that he's had just about enough of her as well. For the first part of the year, he was cast as a villain comparable to that of Jack the Ripper, all because, and I think you would agree, that much evidence points to the fact that Kate gave him the slip. And she took a couple of the kids with her. This, of course, put him in a very compromising situation, and, well, William, being William, rather than coming clean, chose instead to pretend that all was well. This, of course, produced many of the comic highlights of the year. And look, folks, I don't blame Kate at all for leaving. I mean, how much can one really endure? The kind of humiliation that this meat grinder of a family subjects its commoners to. But I think Kate came back for one main reason: her children. And that is reason enough. But let's not pretend, as much as the press would like to have us believe, that this is some ideal fairy tale here, folks. As far as ruptures go, this is about as bad as it gets. And I maintain that a big part of Kate giving up was her having lost access to Harry, who was probably the only person besides her family whom she relied on for emotional support. And yes, I still maintain that her feelings for him went beyond merely platonic. Finally, Camilla was in the news again for what appears to be a lingering chest infection that caused her to miss a key event earlier this month. Now, with this family, one can never tell what the truth is. Now, many users on social media pointed out that an upcoming documentary by Dispatches, scheduled for later this week, as well as the bombshell report earlier this month, may have something to do with Camilla's sudden health crisis. But look, folks, Camilla is 77 years old. It is not inconceivable that at that age, she may be susceptible to various respiratory conditions. But it got me thinking about the Royal Lodge situation and her years-long campaign to secure the property in preparation for her status as Dowager Queen. But with the onset of this illness, it raises the question: what if she succumbs before Charles? Everyone is focused on Charles. But look, folks, Camilla is older than him. And life certainly has a sneaky way of rearranging plans. Anyway, Andrew mysteriously secured enough funds to maintain the upkeep of the property. This was right after it was reported that Beatrice and Eugenie made a trip to the Middle East. Now, Andrew has long been associated with various shady characters who happen to have deep pockets. So for now, the ball is back in Charles and Camilla's court, and it will be interesting to see what kind of counterattack they will launch on the increasingly defiant Andrew. So far, the attacks from the press, one even calling him a lost puppy, are not working. And who knows what ace he has up his sleeve as far as knowing where the bodies are buried. No pun intended.